Hello everybody, this is Eric Novice. In this video I'm going to talk about phishing. This is actually this video was requested by one of my commenters slash viewers of this channel. Shout out to Anne for this request. And the reason why I decided to do it was, apart from the request, was I also realized that not everybody knows this. In other words, it's not common knowledge. So basically, phishing in UBF is basically when you recruit people into UBF. That's what it is technically. So why they call it phishing? It's called phishing because it's based on what Jesus said to Apostle Peter, and I think it was Apostle James, I believe. In the gospel where Jesus said to them, "You'll be a fisher of men." So that's where the idea comes from. That's why UBF calls recruiting people fishing. Right. So in a way, they're evangelizing, but they're not at the same time. Well, they are, but it's just it's kind of weird. It's to be more honest or accurate. They're really just recruiting people into UBF. Not just merely just spreading. Well, they're spreading gospel, but the false gospel, UBF-ism. So that's what basically phishing is for those who are new to the church, to the UBF church, the UBF cult, who don't know, or get kind of thrown off when they say "let's go fishing." So when they say that, that's what they're talking about. And the issue with phishing is that, I actually mentioned this in earlier videos, is basically it leads to a lot of issues for students on campus. And the problem is, like I mentioned in an earlier video, I don't remember at the top of my head, the problem is not the fact that UBF wants to spread their beliefs. The UBF members want to spread the beliefs, with the fact that how they fish, they go to very extreme lengths. Members would, and this is not an exaggeration, this has actually happened before. Members would stalk students to their house, stalk students on social media. They'll follow them to their dorms. There's even some cases where a UBF member would actually follow a student to their house just to get them to go to Bible study. And that really sounds crazy, but it's true. It's happened before. And it still happens now. Maybe not to the same degree as back when the founder of UBF was alive, but they still do that. And that's what accept students, because they feel as though their privacy, their space is being evaded. And that's one of the reasons, and that's pretty much the reason why students report to campus police, because they feel as though UBF members are not being respectful of another person's space, and they feel as though they are a threat or leading them to a trap. Because when UBF members fish students, they don't tell them little to nothing about what they do. I'll actually did this in an earlier video warning new sheep, the stuff, the lies that UBF members would tell, and I'll go over that again in a future video. Or in that future video, I'm going to talk about UBF Bible studies and how they do that. But yeah, so today I'm just talking about phishing, how to recruit people. And another thing about phishing is that it leads to racial profiling. Because the thing is, in UBF, their main desire is basically to get mainstream students. And to them, UBS perspective, mainstream students are basically white people. White Caucasian students. Preferably blue-eyed blonde, but basically white. And so they always try to recruit the white students. Right? Because in my case, I was not recruited directly by a quote unquote shepherd, but it was through a classmate that I knew of. And he introduced me to a UBF member, and that's how I got involved with UBF in the first place. So they would try to get, when they fish, they would fish for white students. Do they fish colored people? Yes. But the preference is white people. And if they can't find any white students on campus, they'll try to find someone with a light complexion. My former classmate, he had a light complexion. He was colored, but he had a very light complexion. Not white, but very light. Because my complexion, I guess you would say, is kind of medium-ish. But his complexion was very, very, light. So that's the kind of people they really search for. And UBF members may not realize this, but the way they fish leads to a judgmental and discriminatory mindset. They might not realize this until someone calls it out, or the latter, which is when after they leave. Yeah, so that's really the bad thing about fishing, is this racial profiling. And one interesting thing to note of is that when UBF members fish, they only fish for students on campus, or anybody that looks like a student. So when they fish for students, they try to get students. They don't fish for adults. And when they fish students, they prefer to fish for young students. I remember one time John Beck said during a Sunday message, one of the last Sunday services that I went to, was talking about how we as a church should be fishing for freshmen, because freshmen are those who are basically going to college, who are, in their perspective, young or inexperienced. They don't flat out, UBF quote unquote missionaries don't flat out say that, but that's the implication. And to them, to UBF, they're more susceptible to follow UBF because they're not familiar with it. They haven't heard about what's happened on campus before. Another interesting thing to note is that whenever UBF members fish, they always fish solo, meaning they always fish by themselves, which is interesting because other cults, when they recruit people, they always go in groups, like Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons. They do it in pairs, sometimes a trio. Jehovah's Witnesses, they go in group. World Mission Society Church of God, which is another Korean cult, they always recruit people in groups. So that's a very interesting fact to know about UBF, is that when they fish, they always fish solo. I never really see any UBF members fish as a group or a duo, but they always do it solo. I don't know why that is. When it comes to fishing, there's a neutrality in that they don't advocate for you to fish in a group with other members together, but at the same time, they're not against it. I just don't know why I'm not sure why they fish solo. I guess it's kind of interesting. It's kind of iffy. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, that's kind of an interesting fact for those who don't know, that when they fish solo by themselves. And that's pretty much what fishing is. And it's kind of a short video, but that's what fishing is, how they fish, and the problems with fishing. And that's pretty much it for this video. And also, if you haven't noticed, or if you're wondering, yes, I did get a new web camera. Because before I was using the web camera of my laptop, but the quality was very terrible, so I'm using a webcam to record this video. I'll talk about that more in a future video, about the equipment I'm using and how to kind of start YouTube in a way. Or if you want to do an open confessions video, you can send a request I'll put my contact information below. I'll also put the link to my website below as well. Right, this is Eric Novice, and I'm signing off.